let's take a look at the evolution of the three forms of agriculture found in use in the historic record. We will then examine why the method exploited by city-states, the one in use today, was so destructive and compromising the course of human existence. Flood retreat agriculture. This form of agriculture was used by hunter-gatherers in the Fertile Crescent 4,000 years before the assemblage of the first city-state. It is the easiest of the three forms of agriculture and remained the first choice by humanity until about 4,000 BCE due to its favorable caloric intake versus caloric expenditure ratio. It does not require the clearing and plowing of fields. When rivers flood, the water retreats. Rich soil is found washed up onto the banks in which seed can be merely tossed. The tribe would then move to another area and repeat the same process while also hunting wild game throughout the region. They would return to the seeded areas in rotation some months later to harvest the crop. Fire agriculture, also known as slash-and-burn agriculture. Invented and used by hunter-gatherers as well, thick forests are burned, killing weeds and the shaded canopy above, leaving enriched soil and access to sunlight. Again, seed is inserted into the loose, rich soil without the need for plowing. This form of agriculture was only undertaken when flood retreat was unavailable, or these methods were used in combination, depending on the landscape and the changing environmental conditions. And lastly, fixed field agriculture. This method, known but avoided by hunter-gatherers, requires the tilling of hard ground, including the clearing of land by removing trees, rocks, and roots. If done in dry, remote areas, it also requires the digging of trenches for irrigation. This method requires the practitioners to remain sedentary, to tend to and protect the fields from animals, insects, and consumption by other humans. Because of the arduous nature of fixed field farming, the caloric yield per acre was very low. Therefore, this method was only used in extreme and desperate times when the environment was unfavorable for use by the first two methods. In our modern world, where fixed field farming has been our staple way of life for over 6,000 years, one may ask, why would there be an issue? How could farming be so challenging that it should be avoided? You simply grab your plow and horse or ox and walk the fields behind them, dropping seed along the way, right? However, there are three issues opposing this presumption. First, the wild and semi-domesticated grass plants of the time were much thinner and lacked the robust spikelets of today's breeds that you might presume were present at 5000 BCE. Therefore, the yield was substantially smaller per acre than would be produced per acre today. Second, the plow had not been invented at this point. Not only was the smelting of iron 1,000 years to come, even the weaker and ineffectual metal, copper, which was known, had yet been smelted. And third, the horse nor the ox were yet domesticated to any degree. Horse domestication would not occur until after 4000 BCE, again 1,000 years later. In 5000 BCE, the only tools available for field work were rock and bone tied to a stick, which would have made the process of clearing and hoeing fields by hand a calorie-consuming misery. With so many deficiencies in the use of fixed-field farming, modern-day archaeologists admittedly have no answer as to why this transfer of lifestyle occurred, and why this survival strategy that was at the time feeble at best began to be used on a permanent basis. I call this mysterious period in human history the Grand Conundrum.